Okay. Yeah, okay. Today, my guest is Miss Barbara Hardt. Ms. Hardt is a New York State licensed clinical social worker. She was trained at Adelphi University, where she received her MSW. She went on to pass the New York State exam and became a CSW, and then was awarded the designation as a LCSW licensed certified social worker. For the past 25 years, Ms. Hardt has worked in the field of traumatic brain injury. In 1951, she was hired as a social worker to work on a team that included a neuropsychologist, a physical therapist, a speech therapist, and an occupational therapist to provide services for individuals who had a sustained traumatic brain injury. Subsequently, the New York State Department of Health and Medicaid traumatic brain injury developed a special program, and one of the special interests of Ms. Hardt, due to the work that she has done, has been the effect of multiple concussions sustained as a result of playing contact sports. This led her several years ago to become interested in the effects of sports injury, particularly concussions sustained by young people while playing football. And we're going to talk about this subject today. Welcome to Psychiatry Talk, Ms. Hardt. If I understand correctly, over the years you've become a specialist in working with people with head injury. How did this special interest come about? So what is the range of services that you offer clients now, those who have brain injury that you see? Hmm. Are there special techniques that you use in working with people with brain injury? So you help to keep them from having to live perhaps in a nursing home and things like that. And Mhm. Are, are the individuals who have a traumatic brain injury, are they aware of their deficits? Hmm. Well, for example, would a person, I realize we can't overgeneralize here, but would a person after a brain injury necessarily know that they couldn't drive? Can you do you ever deal with a situation like that? Hmm. Hmm. You, I know from experience working with people who have brain disease or brain injury that what can be tricky is that a person's long-term memory may be good, right? They can remember things from the distant past, but the short-term memory is the problem, and I imagine that creates problem in their in accepting that deficit. Mm-hmm. I see. Um, Now, I know that you were involved with individuals who sustained a brain injury or a concussion while participating in sports. And I wonder if you can tell us the story how that interest and that involvement came about. were you able to help him, and how did you work with him? So it sounds like this was a very important experience in your career. This case, if I'm not mistaken. Hmm. Hmm. And it might have even been that the coaches were well-meaning. There was this attitude: you gotta stick with it, you gotta rough it out, you gotta get back in there and play, and don't be scared that you got shook up in a play or something like that. And they probably didn't understand what was really going on with concussions. So you then decided to try to do something about it. Is that right? This would be like a screening test. Yeah. So this would be, excuse me, this would be before they started to play football. Right. Right. But we do believe that contact sports increase the possibility of a concussion. Uh huh. Well, do you believe it? Okay. Okay. I want to clarify that. Okay. So you developed this screening test, and then so what was your plan? What were you going to do with the screening test? Hmm. So then this would mean that students would get baseline testing when they entered high school, and then during the course of playing sports, would if they were injured or periodically they would be retested. So if they were injured, if uh huh, oh right, right. So this was really on a relatively regional basis. It wasn't being done at colleges. It wasn't being done in the professional leagues or anything like that, as far as we know. Is that right? Okay, so that's a sound very exciting. This was in the 1990s. And so what happened? What? Now, let's go back to that video that you made. Um, this was getting a lot of publicity. People were just seeing it, or and was anybody in it, or well-known people? Oh, he's a famous football player, right? Okay. So this was really well documented what you were doing because it was in the video, and then suddenly uh, it got killed. Ah, wow, wow. So what do you think? Why do you think this new resistance to the program that everybody was excited about suddenly developed? What's your theory? But why would oh okay, so you thought it was a liability issue perhaps at that point. By the way, is this video available? Is it on YouTube or is it around any place? Do you have a copy of the video? Okay, well, all right. Well, so now so you started this program in the 1990s, and almost 20 years have gone by. Um, when you recognized this issue and you were trying to address it, um, kids are still playing football. College kids are playing football. Professionals are playing football. People are getting concussions. We know that. Has anything changed or improved in this area? Uh huh. Like, is there any sense that if you have one concussion that maybe you should not play anymore? Mhm. Okay. Uh-huh. Well, what about helmets? Do they help? Mm-hmm. Well, now, more recently, there's been a very popular movie that I'm sure you know about called Concussion that dealt with this area, and I assume you were very glad to see this movie. Can you give a summary of the movie in case some of our viewers haven't seen it? Right, it's right, a neuropathologist, right? Mm-hmm. Well, and now you had a little connection to that, in that Harry Carson was a professional football player, and he felt he had head injuries when you interviewed him in your video. Is that right? Uh huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh, I was watching one football game one time, and I saw somebody who got shook up in a play, and the team doctor comes over, and he does some brief neurological examination, and then they took him out of the game. So do you think that they're maybe more attuned to things now? Well, I guess I don't really know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. and of course, there's a difference between a grown adult, making a couple of $1 million a year, who decides that he wants to continue playing or whatever, and a underage high school student who is sent back in the game because his coach thinks that he's okay. Well, do you think it's possible to have contact sports and prevent the prevent serious brain injury, or markedly reduce it? And would the predisposition be because of a previous concussion? Hmm. But you're saying you're more likely to get a second if you've had one? Has that been established, or? Okay. Uh, should we you obviously, despite your efforts, were not able to educate the powers that be on the local level or in the National Football League. But what about the possibility of educating young people about this? Yeah, right. Now you have two grown sons. Did they play football? Uh, if they had wanted to, would you have forbidden them to play? Uh-huh. And, so how would you talk to them today, if they, or perhaps their children, were to ask you about wanting to play football? What how would you talk to them about it? Hmm. Well, thank you very much for this very interesting interview. If someone would like to contact you, do you have a number or a website where you can be reached? Okay, that's 516-378-9252. Thank you, Ms. Barbara Hardt, licensed certified social worker and expert in brain injury, with some very interesting and important thoughts about traumatic brain injury. Thank you very much.